Guys, Effie here. This is the first project out of two that I'm making for day 4 of our 4th anniversary release, Block Hops. And for this first project, I'm using our 4x6 Coming Up Peony stamp set. I'll be doing a little bit of heat embossing and then watercoloring. So I stamped this beautiful image onto some watercolor paper with some clear embossing ink. I spooned or poured on some white embossing powder, then hit the whole panel with my heat gun. Now I'm going to get ready for some wet and wet watercoloring with Ken Oliver color bursts. I wet the largest peony on my paper first with some clean water, and then I started dropping in bits of pigment to the inner petals of the largest peony. After I dropped in the pigment with a fine tip brush, I took a medium tip brush and I blended that color out to the outer edges of the petal. And I'm going to continue this process for the rest of the areas on this peony. Now I'm working in sections because after I apply some clean water, it does get absorbed into the paper. So for me, it's kind of impossible to wet the entire area and then continue to work with the wet and wet technique without re-wetting. So I have to kind of go back in sections because this peony is a little bit larger, which I absolutely love. And that is what I'm most excited about for this coming up Peonies set, because the blooms in this set are a little bit larger than the blooms in our other floral sets. So they're really fun to color and really great to practice watercoloring on. So after I applied that base layer of Peony color burst, I did add a second tone. I used Marigold color burst, and I kind of just re-wet the areas of the inner petals, and then I dropped in a little bit of the Marigold color burst just to add that second tone. It kind of gives the flower a little bit more dimension when you use that second tone. After I finished with the petals, I colored the center portion with a combination of Gamboge and orange. And then you can see for this bud, I started coloring or watercoloring with Marigold color burst. And I didn't really like that I started that base color with the Marigold. So I just went over that base or the inner petal areas with the Peony, and you can see that I used a deeper concentration. So after I finished with that Peony base, I went in and added some Marigold for that second tone, and I just repeated the process for the rest of the buds. And I like this process better, adding the Peony first and then the Marigold, not the other way around. So I like the Peony as the base first. Then I'm just going to do some additional wet and wet watercoloring for the foliage and the stems. So I wet the areas of the stems and leaves with clean water, and then I dropped in lime color burst. Now this is just some really messy, loose, fast watercoloring. This is the effect that I wanted. I'm going outside the lines, and that is okay. As I go outside the lines, I kind of just blend some of that lime color burst out so that it's blended into the background, so I don't have a lot of hard edges, and it's just a really beautiful abstract effect that I get as a result. So I'm just going to finish up painting the stems and foliage, and you get this really, really beautiful loosely watercolored look. And I love applying this watercoloring technique to white embossed images because I feel like the images just pop a little bit more with those white lines. Next, I'm just going to wait for my panel to dry completely, and then I'll trim my painted panel into a size that's slightly smaller than A2. Then I'm just going to stamp the sentiment using our Caviar Hybrid Ink, and the sentiment that I chose was a good luck sentiment. Then I just trimmed some strips of dimensional foam tape. I applied them to the rear of my painted panel. Next, I just mounted my painted panel onto a side folding A2 card base. And then lastly, I just embellished my card using our clear rhinestones, which look like beautiful, subtle dewdrops because they don't have that backing to them. So they take on whatever color you apply them to. I'm applying them with some multi-matte medium, and I'm just applying them in a visual triangle all over my panel around my sentiment and some on the actual florals, and then towards the edges of the card. And this project is now complete. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out video number 2 for day 4 of this blog hop, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because I update it on a weekly basis. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.